Welcome to the Deep Dive. This is where we take the sources you send our way and, well, we really dig into them.
Yeah, we sift through, find those key insights.
Exactly, trying to uncover those hidden gems. And today, we're doing a bit of a literary excavation.
hmm
We're looking into the early short stories of F. Scott Fitzgerald. It's all from that PDF you shared.
Mm,
The best early stories of F. Scott Fitzgerald, Day of Not Fitzgerald.pdf.
right. And these aren't, the big novels like Gatsby yet,
No,
but they're like the early sketches, the blueprints. You really see the beginnings of the themes, the character types.
I would define him later.
Exactly. It gives you this unique window into how he developed as a writer.
It really does.
No.
And for you, listening as the learner, our goal here is to pull out those aha moments,
Yeah.
the surprising bits.
Without getting too bogged down in academic jargon.
Right. Keep it focused, engaging. Okay, so let's unpack this. One of the first figures, maybe the key figure, who pops up right away in these early stories,
Yeah.
it's the flapper.
The flapper, yeah. And what's really striking, I think, is how distinct she is right from the start.
How so?
Well, the text itself calls her frivolous, saucy, and impetuous. She's not quite like other independent female characters you might see around that time.
That's a good point. Like, if you think about Edith Wharton's Ellen Olenska.
Right, from Age of Innocence, which is around 1920.
Yeah, Ellen definitely pushes boundaries, but she's still very much aware of the societal rules and, the consequences.
Whereas the flapper feels like a more direct rebellion, maybe.
A break, yeah.
And the text actually says this directly, that the rebellion of Fitzgerald's generation shows up in different ways, and religion and the young woman are part of that.
Which kind of sets the stage for that tension between tradition and this new modern way of being.
It does. And that leads us right into the story, Lois.
Lois. 19, with that description. Yellow hair and eyes that people were tactful enough not to call green.
Ha, yes. It tells you something right there, doesn't it?
It does. And apparently, talented men would try to sketch her on streetcars.
Only to usually crumple it up.
Right. What do you think that says about her?
Maybe something elusive, hard to pin down. A certain kind of energy.
And the setting for Lois is interesting, too, this monastery in Maryland.
Very evocative. The trees described as tall, languid ladies and butlers.
Making delicate lace on the hems of many yellow fields. It paints such a picture.
It really does. A very serene, traditional backdrop.
Perfect contrast for Lois and her modern viewpoint when she visits her brother Keith.
Who has found religion there.
Yeah. And she's a bit worried he'll be priggish or resentful because she hasn't visited sooner.
But then she feels this unexpected happiness just walking with him.
It's a nice touch. Shows the complexity, maybe, of family connections despite different paths.
And Keith's own story of finding faith is, well, it's dramatic.
Very. That voice on the Pullman cart.
I want you to be a priest.
And his reaction, oh my God, not that. Then crawling to the rector's office, it's intense. It really is. A real moment of surrender. And the contrast with Lois is stark, isn't it? His sudden deep faith versus her questioning totally highlights that generational shift. Lois sees being Catholic as, what was the word? Inconvenient.
Yeah, like it doesn't apply anymore.
And she observes things around her, points out that some of the wildest boys are Catholic, while the brightest boys she knows are skeptical.
It's like she's seeing a disconnect between the rules and the reality.
She raises specific things too, doesn't she?
Yeah, like the perceived narrowness of church schools, the church's stance on birth control. Her concerns feel very practical, tied to the times.
It's not just rejecting faith outright, it's questioning its relevance.
Exactly, a kind of lukewarmness, as you said.
Which is miles away from Keith's certainty. His vision for her future, picturing her kids calling him Uncle Keith.
Such different worlds, you feel that gap widening between them.
And her reaction at the end, at the gate. The tears.
Yeah.
And that note.
Oof, yeah. This is in the way of a permanent goodbye. I should suggest Italy.
Pretty fun.
Very. And then the detail about the clerks finding and reading the 13-word note, it just adds this layer of, mundane reality onto this very personal final moment.
Underscores the break. Okay, let's shift gears a bit because this next one, Head and Shoulders, is fascinating in a different way.
Right. Horace Tarbox.
The intellectual powerhouse. Grade A, everything in classics at 13, MA at 17.
The professor feeling like he's talking to an institution.
Exactly. What does that intense focus seem to sort of cost him initially?
Well, it isolates him, doesn't it? Deep in academia, detached from, real life,
Until life reached in
in the
and
form of Marcia Meadow.
the chorus girl.
Yeah.
Such a collision.
Intellect meets pure vitality.
And her introduction. The note, "Dear Omar,"
Huh! Yes, and their first conversations, Hume being soporific.
and Marcy asking, "Who's your friend and will he die?" And then just kiss me.
It completely throws Horace off his game, shows how sheltered he was.
So their relationship, the marriage,
Yeah.
it causes quite a stir.
Oh, yeah. A 4.5-day wonder in academic circles. This genius marrying a chorus girl.
It makes you wonder what Fitzgerald's getting at there about the limits of just, brain power.
But then Horace transforms completely.
Right. He takes up the trapeze for her, this intensely physical thing.
Mens sana in corpore sano, he says.
Even though Marcia is like, stick to gymnastics.
But he succeeds, becomes a performer. It's a total identity shift.
And then Marcia surprises everyone.
With her book, Sandra Pepys, syncopated.
Which, despite its inadequacy of vocabulary.
Just becomes a hit. It connects with people, this simple story of a girl wanting to be on stage.
So what's the takeaway there? Giving the creative success to Marcia, the supposedly less intellectual one.
Maybe that there are different kinds of intelligence, different ways to express yourself that are just as valid.
Which leads to that line. Poor gauzy souls trying to express ourselves in something tangible.
Yeah. Marcia with her written book, I with my unwritten ones.
Trying to choose our mediums and then taking what we get and being glad. It feels so universal.
It really does. That basic human need to create, to connect, regardless of your background.
So it's an early look at how love, connection, it can totally change your path.
Absolutely. And what success even means.
Okay, let's pivot again. Sally Carrol Happer. This one really dives into cultural clashes, North versus South.
Yeah, and the weight of expectations. We meet Sally Carrol, 19, down south, watching Clark Darrow.
By his unreliable Ford. What's that opening scene telling us?
Paints a picture, doesn't it? Maybe more relaxed, less rigid than the North she finds later.
Her interactions with Clark seem easygoing.
Right. Even his joking proposal, her practical refusal about money, there's a casualness there.
Which definitely changes when she gets engaged to Harry Bellamy.
The Northerner, tall, broad, and brisk.
And the text says she has different sides, almost like she has to shift her personality.
Adapt, yeah. And her initial excitement for the North. This was the North, her land now.
That fades pretty quickly.
Oh, yeah. Meeting Harry's parents, she immediately feels like she's acting a part.
It's a cultural shock. The social rules are completely different.
Especially for engaged women. The expectation of being reserved, no flirting, it's totally alien to her Southern ways.
Like operating under a different code entirely.
Exactly. And then there's that character, Rags Ragland, the writer.
Yes. With his rather gloomy takes.
Very gloomy. Northern races are the tragic races. They don't indulge in the cheering luxury of tears.
And calling Northern women glorified domestics? Pretty rough.
Harsh. What's his role, do you think?
Maybe a cynical commentator.
Yeah.
Voicing those cultural biases. Amplifying Sally Carrol's own feelings of being an outsider.
Could be. He certainly adds to her sense of alienation.
Which just keeps building. She really dislikes Mrs. Bellamy.
Who wants to shorten her name from Sally Carrol to just Sally?
And disapproves of her bobbed hair.
Mm.
These little things become big cultural flashpoints.
Even her arguments with Harry about Southerners. They just see the world differently.
Fundamentally differently. So the engagement party, that feels like a turning point.
A big one. She feels her own old ghosts were marching by. Such a powerful image.
Her past self is just fading. And then the ice palace scene.
Wow. Yeah, that's incredibly vivid, almost surreal.
A miracle of rare device, a sunny pleasure dome with caves of ice. You mentioned that's from Coleridge's Kubla Khan.
Right. A poem about something amazing, fantastical, but also temporary, fragile, like the ice palace itself.
It's huge, 170 feet tall, 6,000 square yards, but it's still just ice. Artificial.
And in the middle of this spectacle, Sally Carrol just feels foreign, afraid.
She's repeating those lines from the poem, like trying to find something familiar.
Maybe trying to anchor herself in this weird frozen world.
And the torchlight procession, she sees it as a sacrifice.
To the gray pagan god of snow, it gets really dark, almost sinister for her.
She panics, feels haunted by damp souls, cries out for Clark, for Joe Ewing.
Longing for home.
For the South, her final sort of descent into the ice.
Yeah.
It feels symbolic, giving in to this alien place.
It really does, a surrender to something hostile.
And then the contrast the next morning. Seeing Clark again.
just casually eating a green peach, talking about swimming in warm water.
It's devastating. Their realities are just completely separate now. Shows the tragic cost of that cultural displacement for her.
It really makes you think about how much culture shapes us and how jarring it is when that's stripped away.
Okay, let's look at Bernice Bob's her hair. Another angle on social pressure, right? Appearance, fitting in.
Definitely. That country club setting, the gallery always watching.
Bernice starts out so awkward. That conversation with Marjorie.
Where Marjorie calls her a nuisance, brutal.
And Marjorie's advice. How to attract men by being a sad bird.
Cynical, but maybe perceptive about the performance involved in socializing then.
Perhaps.
Yeah.
But the core of it is Bernice's decision bobbing her hair.
Which was huge back then. A real act of defiance.
And Marjorie's reaction afterwards. That fake apology.
Just highlights the jealousy, the manipulation going on. Bernice clearly shook things up.
You feel Bernice's anxiety about the consequences. How much those expectations weigh on her.
But that final act.
Oh, yeah.
Scalping Marjorie, essentially. Running off with the braids.
It's dramatic.
Yeah.
A powerful moment of taking back control, rejecting those rules.
So what's Fitzgerald saying here about conformity, rebellion?
Maybe exploring that tension. Fitting in versus being yourself, especially for young women. Bernice's act, extreme as it is, feels like a breakout moment.
Yeah, from something suffocating. Okay, now for something completely different. The diamond as big as the Ritz.
Right. Takes us into this almost fantasy realm. Extreme wealth illusion.
Starting with John T. Unger from Hades.
Hades. And he ends up encountering Percy Washington and this unbelievable estate.
Diamond Mountain. A cubic mile of flawless diamond. It's just absurd.
Totally absurd. Gold walls, diamond rooms. What's the point of that level of impossible wealth?
It's exaggeration, right? To show how corrupting extreme wealth can be, it becomes grotesque, artificial, isolating.
And the backstory of Fitznorman finding it, trying to control the diamonds?
It's like a dark fairy tale about greed, paranoia, trying to maintain this impossible secret, sealing the mind, dealing with governments.
All to keep up the illusion. And then there's Kisman.
The beautiful girl in the gilded cage.
Their romance seems perfect at first.
Until the big reveal, the caged men.
Ugh. The horrific price of keeping that secret safe, it just shatters everything.
Reveals the dark reality under the sparkling surface.
So the escape plan, the bombs falling on the chateau, the whole fantasy just collapses.
Violently. And that ending?
So bleak. Kisman thinking she saved jewels, but they're just rhinestones.
And their future back in Hades looks grim. From unimaginable riches to nothing.
It's a really potent statement, isn't it? About how hollow that kind of wealth is, how fragile the illusions are.
Suggests true value isn't in diamonds, maybe.
Okay, finally, let's touch on those more reflective pieces. Essays, like the chief thing I have learned so far.
Right. These give us a more direct glimpse into his thinking.
What stands out to you from those?
Well, I like that observation that nobody else knows much more than you do. It feels surprisingly grounded.
Yeah, down to earth. He also talks about strong beliefs leading to extremes, while maybe lacking belief leads to ordinariness.
Something like that. How do these reflections connect back to the stories for you?
They feel like context.
Uh-huh.
Like hearing the author mull over the same issues he's exploring fictionally,
Mm-hmm.
his comments on aging, vulnerability. It adds a human layer to the sometimes idealized youth in the stories.
And his own definition of the flapper. Seeing her as consciously navigating a changing world. It deepens that character.
Yeah, it shows he wasn't just sketching surfaces. He was thinking about the motivations, the anxieties underneath a jazz age glitter.
Definitely engaged with the deeper shifts happening.
So, wrapping up this deep dive,
Yeah.
it really is striking how much of later Fitzgerald is already here in these early stories.
Absolutely. Those core themes are present. The pull and the danger of wealth.
The complexities between men and women,
Youthful disillusionment.
clashes between different worlds, different expectations.
It's all being explored, maybe in nascent form, but it's there. You can trace the lineage to the later, more famous works.
The early flapper evolved into his more complex women later on. It's like seeing the foundations being laid.
It really is a valuable look into his formative years, his sharp eye on a changing America.
So for you listening, as we've gone through these, maybe think about which story or which theme really stuck with you.
Yeah, which exploration of youth or rebellion or society felt most resonant?
And maybe how those glimpses from Fitzgerald's time connect or don't connect with things today. Something to think about.
Definitely worth exploring the full collection if you get the chance.
For sure. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us today.